So in this video, I want to wrap up kind of this section of stuff by taking their button example, and I'm just going to copy the whole thing for the moment, and put this in here, maybe make some edits here. Okay, so yeah, I mean, there's no linting errors or anything like that. I'll just switch this to main just because it's kind of the whole application, so we'll just wrap it in the main tags instead of a div. And in here, we're importing useState. So here's the main component, if you will. I'll switch this back to app instead of my app. It's nice to keep the function name kind of in sync with the name of the file, the default export. And then here we have this sort of supporting component that's only used here in app. So if this was most likely, if it's a button component, it's probably something I'm going to use in multiple spots in the app, in which case I would keep it in its own component file. But in this case, since it's only used here in the app for right now, we can just co-locate it. I am going to rename this. I'm going to highlight this and hit F2. That's not it. I'm going to highlight this and hit F2 and switch this to button instead of my button. Okay, so we've already gone over generally how this works. What I am going to do is make a change here. Now, the way they have this written will work. And you know what? Maybe there's something in the latest React where this has been fixed. But I'm going to teach this anyway. Just better be safe than sorry and have some weird bug. But without getting into the details, there is something where we could end up in a stale state situation. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's turn this over to the AI. I'm going to ask about this. I'm going to say explain. Hopefully you can read that in the video. We'll talk about what I'm saying here, but let's just see what the AI thinks about this, because this, yeah, there you go. There is a potential danger. That's what I thought. So maybe I should make a PR on the React docs, or maybe you can make a PR. I don't know. Let's read the details here. There is a potential danger. I mean, you can kind of pause the video and read this. So why this happens? React's useState updates are asynchronous. In other words, they're not just because you write this here doesn't mean it occurs right there. React has its own kind of optimization of how it basically chooses to execute and dispatch those state updates. So they're asynchronous. So if you have multiple counts, you could get stale states in there. I mean, it's, like I said, pretty unlikely, but if you hammer that button fast enough, you could probably generate this bug. But yeah, this is how we fix the bug. So to prevent that, we're going to use a callback function rather than just doing set count and directly passing the value. I'm going to just use an arrow function. I'm going to say prev, or not preview. I usually just call it prev as in the previous state, or as you saw in the AI, prev count. And then I'm going to do it like this. And just with this one simple change, you remove that 0.02% of stale state happening. So this is a better way to do it. What you're saying here is, because this is a callback function, you're going to say, take the previous state and whatever its value is. Well, you can read this function, right? Take the previous state and return back. In other words, whatever you return from this function is what is the new state that you're updating. So take the previous value, whatever that is, and add 1 to it. And if you do that, have a reference to the previous value, you will prevent the potential stale state bug. Aside from that, there's really nothing else to do here. We can take a look at the application. Well, it looks really horrible, of course, because it's got absolutely no styling in it. We'll just have AI generate some styles because, yeah, we'll just say generate style. And just to make sure it is clear, I will do a file reference to this CSS so it knows that we're using Tailwind, even though I just mentioned that. I'll just take whatever it did. Let's take a look at that. Okay, that's a little better. I mean, you could add some spacing and stuff like that. We'll just have that done up here. So we will say, hit Command Shift I. I'm going to go into edit mode, which should edit stuff in this file. And now we're going to say add styles with Tailwind. Reference file, our CSS file, on app. Because we already have some styles on the buttons, but let's just have it, just add something for us here. It is not what I wanted. No. Undo. Absolutely not. Don't use @apply. Just apply the styles directly in here. Thumbs down. I don't even know. Okay, I'm just going to say try again. With Tailwind classes, like how Tailwind, I don't even know why it did that. Like, it did fine on this one. Okay, that might be more what we're going for. That will work. I will keep that. And hopefully it doesn't look like image. Okay, yeah, I mean, we can still add some spacing in here and stuff like that. Anyway, the point is we can do this here. Now, before I wrap this up, I want you to, well, at least if you're using Chrome, you need to add React Developer Tools to your React Dev Tools. You can go here to Chrome Web Store. It's just an extension that you add. I've already got it, so it just says you want to remove it, which I don't. And what it does is that you can click here on components, and you can actually look at your components. So you can like highlight here and etc. You can go in here. You can see that we clicked 16 times, and it shows you the props and the on-click and everything else. So it's kind of handy, but to put this together, we have a button component that'll receive 2 props, the count and what you want to happen on the on-click. That is all managed by the parent. The parent sends in the count, sends in set count, and I got too many reminders going off. So we have count, set count, and we learned about how to avoid the stale state bug potentially. And the point is, this is just a made-up name, by the way. You can call this whatever you want. So they did on-click, and then they passed in this function handle-click. So whenever this button is clicked, it references back to this function, which then dispatches the set count and updates the state, triggering a render of the UI. Let's see if there's any other last-minute things here. I guess that's sufficient for an overview or introduction. So yeah, let's leave it at that. You know, reflect on this. What questions do you have? What should we do next? Etc., etc.